All right, I want to welcome everybody to this week's edition of the Northern New England chapter of SABR's meetings. I am Bruce McClure, the chapter chair, and we always hold our meetings in conjunction with the Gardner-Waterman chapter of SABR in Vermont, Dr. Clayton Truder, chair. And we don't have any agenda this week. I thought I'd throw it out to everybody for a Diamond Discourse session to talk a lot about what's going on in spring training. But first, I want to talk about the bylaws vote for just a moment. We had 26 votes for the bylaws. It was a unanimous ratification of them. They will be sent on to SABR National today or tomorrow, where they will be accepted, as well as the name change for our chapter. Going forward, as soon as I'm told it's okay to refer to us this way, we will be known as the Clyde Sukeforth chapter of SABR. For those who don't know Clyde Sukeforth's story, take a look at him in SABR's biographies. He was in the room when Jackie Robinson signed his contract. He was the guy who first wrote Jackie Robinson into the lineup in Major League Baseball. We thought it would be such a positive thing to honor him for his contributions to the integration of the game. I was doing great till I got to that word. And going forward, that's what we're going to do. Now, I want to talk to Ben Abel for a minute. Ben and I recorded a session of his podcast about a week ago. Ben, why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure, just let me unmute. So I shared in the chat. So what I have done, probably since 2020 when the pandemic started, I came up with the idea. Let's move my camera back a bit. Of starting a podcast. So it took a long time to research it. And then I started to do it myself. Because I live in Vancouver, Canada, my focus is Vancouver, Canada area sports, kind of sports team, sports news. And so I brought Bruce on because one, it's a heck of a lot more fun having guests on a podcast than trying to do it yourself like I started out doing. So I learned a lot of stuff. And then when I decided I was looking for guests, I was like, I should shed some light on SABR, my membership, Bruce, because I come to this chapter meeting so much. And I thought it would be interesting to discuss and promote with Bruce things about SABR. And so that's why I invited Bruce on as a guest. And then, of course, I tried to link it back to and have a Vancouver, Canada, where I live, bit of a focus. So that's my intention. So I know I came to the previous meeting and Bruce cut the meeting off and he emailed me and I was like, I just want to actually take the time to promote the podcast itself, but also promote Bruce's participation and this group.
I certainly do appreciate it. I had a good time talking about that with you. I had to go out and do some real research on some of the guys from Vancouver coming up through the system to New Hampshire this year, but it's good to get into some of that to see just who's going to be taking the field in Manchester for the Fisher Cats this year, to see just how well they're going to do. It's a real offensive park because it was built a little short. It's only 310 down the right field line. So if you're a left-handed hitter, you can knock one out a little bit easier, especially with these baseballs that are a little more tightly wound in the minor leagues. They want to pump those offensive numbers a little bit. But I'm looking for New Hampshire to challenge again for a division title. I think they're going to do well. They've got a nice pipeline. And I think they're ready to make some noise in the Eastern League. But we were talking about, before I hit the record button, we were talking about a little bit about spring training and a little bit about pitchers going down like bowling pins, as Jeff Cohen put it. I'm just going to start right off with the big news out of the Boston Globe today. Lucas Giolito seems to have some elbow discomfort. Does this make the Red Sox the prime suitor for Montgomery or Snell now? Or do we think they're not going to spend it all and start that Houston Astros, Baltimore Orioles process? Anybody can jump in. Silence.
Well, I think they've already started the process.
Do you really?
Yeah. Look at all the minor leaguers that are in camp that look like they have starting jobs.
Okay, I'll take that. I'll take that.
I'm
Now,
a step
go ahead.
behind. I'm a step behind, but they parted company with Chris Sale too, right? Like he's gone.
That's correct.
Didn't he go
Yep.
to Atlanta? Okay.
Yeah, they traded
That's the
him.
main guy. Sorry, I've been in and out of some of the spring training kind of stuff, trying to catch pieces of games, but I seem to remember Chris Sale was one of those guys.
Yeah, Giolito, go ahead.
I'm sorry. It seems like I would think that Jordan Montgomery might be the way to go to in Boston, only because just I heard his wife is graduating from Harvard with a doctor's degree and needs to do a residency. So New England might be the perfect place for them.
I'm surprised he hasn't signed already. I don't understand if that's
I don't get that either.
I don't understand why they haven't tried to grab him already, except for something that was mentioned on MLB on Sirius XM today, talking about the Red Sox. Somebody, who was it? It was one of the fellows in the afternoon, was talking about how it's crossed his mind that they're incurring losses somewhere else in their organization that they are trying to cover by cutting with the Red Sox. That was one of the theories that came out today. Who knows how true it is? You're never really going to know, but it looks like I'm going to be able to get some tickets easy in Boston this year.
Yeah, but do you want to?
Depends on who they're playing.
That's funny. Do you want to?
I mean, they open up against my Orioles.
Well, it's good if you're a Baltimore fan, but what?
Yes.
The Red Sox have a habit. They bring up young
plan
guys.
on going to the second game, not the first one.
Plan on going to the second game?
Yeah, because there's only going to be 2,000 people there.
Oh boy. Oh boy.
And how about Zach Wheeler getting $42 million a year? Is that
From the
crazy?
Phillies, yeah.
You know, I read that brief and thought I read it wrong. He got $42 million a year.
Starting next year for 3 years, yes.
That's insanity.
It is. It just tells you that, you know what? MLB is flush with money. I mean, they have to. I mean, they have to pay for this, right? That's a crazy amount of money. And he'll be in his mid-30s. You know, we see what happened with Scherzer, Verlander, DeGrom. Well, by the way, all on the DL.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
It's amazing the number of pitchers who are hurt right now. Jeff, you had a comment before we got started that I want you to get out there regarding, you know, and it's, and no offense, Jeff, it is the perfect get off my lawn comment, because I would have said it and then said, now get off my lawn. But tell us again what you were talking about earlier.
Pitchers are throwing as hard as they can for as long as they can. And that's, you know, they're getting hurt more, getting paid more, and getting hurt more. They only throw, 5-6 innings at most. I mean, there's a few that go 180, 200 innings, just a few. That was the norm. That was the norm back in the day. You know, pitchers they knew how to pitch. There was an art of pitching. Even though they threw hard, they knew when to dial it up and when to bring it back. And they knew how to set up batters. That's not done today. And it can't be done today because at 100 pitches, they're out of the game. Manager's going to take them out no matter what. It's just they just don't. It's the game has evolved, and not for in my opinion, not for the better.
Many front offices view their players as assets and not players, and they're, in my opinion, right, wrong, or indifferent, everybody jump in when you want to. They're not taught the tried and true fundamentals of the game and the art of their position that evolved over, 150 years of Major League Baseball. Now, of course, this game is not the same as the game that I watched sitting next to my dad in the 70s, nor is it the game that was played in the 50s, nor is it the game that was played in the 40s. And let's keep going backwards. But the game evolved to different scenarios, different ways of playing. We saw the shifts. We saw the invention of the 3-inning save, 5-man rotation, let alone 4. Rule changes, DH, I could go on. What happened to pitchers keeping hitters off balance with off-speed stuff? What happened to pitchers only throwing the gas when they need it? Granted, they're earning a ton of money, but I'd like to see the game evolve to where we are teaching those fundamental bunt for a hit, move the runner over. We'll never see it again. It's 3. Well, I don't know if we will or not because the game evolves, but 3 true outcomes is the way it is right now, and I don't know how long that's going to stay on the map. Ben has his hand up, so I'm going to go back to Ben.
Hey guys.
Go ahead.
I just wanted to know if anybody saw the whole Daniel Vogelback, Garrett Cole thing and what they thought of it. The whole Daniel Vogelback home run spring training against Garrett Cole, and then the apparent slow trot around the bases. I watched the highlight. It didn't look like a slow trot to me.
He was going full speed.
I was about to say, that's about as fast as Vogelberg
Well, that's what I was
goes.
wondering. Like, I've seen him play for the Mets, and I've seen him play with other teams, right? Kind of this bigger guy, right? Like he's short, right? And I was like, what is he talking about? He's doing a slow trot. And then Garrett Cole says, I don't forget many things. I thought, oh God, like in spring training, you're pissed off about a slow trot.
Yeah, settle down. I can only like settle down, Garrett. Come on. I saw that too. I don't know if anybody else did. Maybe somebody can jump in here who saw it. I mean, I'm watching Vogelbach go around the bases, and I'm saying that's about top speed for him. He's not Lou Brock. He's not Richie Anderson. And I'm pretty certain that there's a few sluggers that would outpace him on a home run trot. I mean, he's a guy that's like, yeah, whatever. I just smacked it out of the park. I'm going to enjoy it. Joe, you're up.
One of the things I think in the old days, we used to watch and hope that the pitcher pitches a complete game. Shutouts probably out of the question, but that was one of the things that would keep you there through the 9th inning instead of leaving in the 7th because it's a waste of time. We haven't had a complete game pitcher go double digits for a season since 2011. And before that, 2008. And let me see, I could tell you before that, 1999. So since 1999, we've had exactly 2 pitchers who have amassed at least 10 complete games in a season. That's ridiculous.
Once again, it goes to that evolution of the game and how things have changed. I mean, I watch a ball game now, and it's definitely not the same game as it was when I was a kid or even when I was a young adult. But I mean, it's still the greatest game in the world, and I'll still stop everything to sit down and watch my guys. But I like to see some things change. Yeah, and I'm hearing myself in the back of my head yelling at the kids outside right now. Get off my lawn!
Can you get all the Oriole games up here?
I can watch MLB TV. Yeah, I actually have T-Mobile cell phones, and I get MLB TV for free every year.
I had that issue. Someone told me in Canada that they didn't realize I lived in Canada. Someone from SABR, because I was trying to get out of market games because I can get the Blue Jays because of Sportsnet, right? Sometimes TSN will have them too. But if I wanted extra stuff, like a bunch of Mariners games, I don't get Root Sports Northwest. So get Major League Baseball TV. And I'm like, I don't live in Canada. I don't have T-Mobile as a cell phone provider. I only knew T-Mobile existed because my parents used to live in the States, right? So I don't know what games I'm going to get this year. Get MLB TV, and then a lot of stuff was blocked out, right? So
You can go to their website and put your postal code in, and it should tell you what you get and what you don't.
Yeah, I've done that and I paid for it. It was just quite expensive, and then I would use it and not use it. So
Yeah. I think in a lot of ways that's what they count on. They count on you buying it, and then I don't know. I don't know. We go back to Jeff.
Yeah, I just want to comment on the complete games. 2 years ago, Sandy Contra, he led the league with 6, which is a lot, and a lot for today, obviously. Now he's out for the year. He's out for the year for the Marlins. And did that have a toll? Pitching so many innings? It's 10, 20 were the norm. But the Dodgers have 4 pitchers on a DL. I mean, Kershaw, Walker Buehler, Tony Gonsolin, Derek May. That's a pretty good starting staff. It just they're going down like I said, bowling pins. I mean, now with Giolito out now, and who else? I'm just going down the list here.
Verlander.
Verlander, Scherzer,
Means on the
DeGrom.
Orioles, Woodruff on the Brewers,
Otani,
and Senga for the Mets. I mean, it's
Well,
an epidemic.
what does everybody think is the difference between then and now? Is it max effort?
I think it is. I think it's max effort.
Is there something else about the development of a player or that player's body that has changed over time? What do you guys think?
I can only add from reading some recent SABR stuff. So I got that book about Ebbets Field, and I was reading some of the early entrants in the Ebbets Field book. There's pitchers pitching like a 16-inning game back then.
Yeah.
It's crazy. Or I was reading the Bobby Richardson book I was gifted. I'm going to do a book review for the IBWA this month, and how many games Whitey Ford started, and like he'd be their starter for the Yankees always in playoff or World Series games, and he'd still be going after 9 innings. I was like, what? Like no bullpen, like he's just out there like every so many games in the World Series, depending on how far it went.
Bob Gibson comes to mind too.
Yeah. Bob Gibson, I love when 1 year he was never taken out of the game from the mound. I mean, he might have been pinch hit for late in the game, but
that was 68.
Manager did not take him off the mound.
Yep, that was 1968. Yep.
Wow.
Yep. Dewey, did you have your hand up?
Yeah.
Go.
It might go back to the height of the mound. Kids that start in like T-ball and elementary levels of ball, it's a 4-inch mound. It goes up to a 6-inch mound when they're about 9 years old, or it goes up to a 6-inch mound when they're around 11, 8-inch when they're 12 to 14, and then 10-inch, which is MLB. And it might be that they're rushing them along, wear and tear on the shoulder and the arms, wanting to develop players. I'm gone.
No, you're not. You're here.
We hear you.
Along this way, I think it might relate to the height of the mound. And to go back and address that, perhaps MLB needs to look at that again. I think it was after Gibson's 1968 season, and looking at statistics, that they decided that they needed to put more offense back in the game, so they lowered the mound.
It was 69, I think they lowered them out, if I remember right, when the 4 expansion teams came in, because 68 was, the year of the pitcher.
Right.
Gibson shut everybody out. Yaz led the American League with a 301.
Yeah.
And that was the year McLean won 30.
Yeah. What was the year, 65, 66, when Conigliaro led the American League with 32 home runs?
I believe so, yeah.
Killebrew only had like 22 or 24, which was pretty surprising.
Offenses were balanced too. You had your runners at the top of the lineup, your meat in the middle, and your setup guys toward the bottom of the lineup that could get on base and turn the lineup over to start the offense again. And there were room on rosters back then for guys like a Mark Belanger who got to everything but hit 220. What, he hit 5 home runs in his career? He's a Western Massachusetts guy like I am. He was from Pittsfield. Ben, you're up.
I was gonna say, I seem to remember rule changes. Obviously, the pitch clock is a big one, so I don't know how that affects it, given how that was brought in through the minor leagues. I saw it in 2022 and then last year in Major League Baseball. I seem to remember the mound was changed recently in Major League Baseball, though, I thought, within the last couple of years since the pandemic.
Weren't they fooling around with the distance from the rubber in the Atlantic League?
Yeah, I think they were doing that in Atlantic League. They were experimenting there.
That's what they did. Like when I saw sorry, Bruce, sorry, the Vancouver Canadians 2 years ago at high A, they had the pitch clock, right?
Yeah.
So I didn't know how much the pitch clock would have affected it, pitcher durability, because they're not standing on the mound for a minute and a half anymore, right?
See, here's another good comment about pitching right now. There's been a lot of comment made that I've read or seen, and some of it by guys who are out there taking their turn every 4th or 5th day, that the pitch clock is having an effect on their bodies. Now, my response to that would be, let's take a look at the way guys pitched in this, when I was a kid, get off my lawn once again, where we talk, we see these guys throw the ball, strike one, get the ball, set, go, ball one, throw the ball, one right after the other. There was no.
Bruce, the batter stayed in the batter's box.
And the batter stayed in the batter's box too. I like that rule where, get in there and be ready at the 7-second mark or else. HR Ryan, Heather, how you doing? You're muted, my friend. You are muted.
How's that?
There she
Better?
is. How you
All
doing?
Right. Okay. I wanted to say about the pitch clock that there is some research that I read before they instituted the pitch clock that it would have a bad effect on the tendon in the elbow, because when you shorten the time between pitches, it aggravates the strain on the elbow. So they were forecasting more elbow injuries, but I don't know if that would have taken place. So if it would have explained what happened last year or the year before in terms of pitching injuries, but it certainly can't help. And I think also what you were saying about how people pitched faster in the old days, they weren't throwing as hard consistently as they are today. They were like Nolan Ryan was not throwing that hard constantly.
Right.
Like,
I agree.
Today. So
he was going something like 85-90%, where today's pitches are going 99-100% all the time.
Right, and they're expected to do that, and everyone is expected to throw fastball sliders all the time. They don't do anything else. Like I was talking about Tim Wakefield the other day. I'm like, where are the knuckleballers? Where are they hiding?
I think there's one in all of minor league baseball right now. I think there's one in all of minor league baseball. One.
Yeah, and why not have, why not teach people how to throw the knuckleball and they can pitch for like 20 years, and they don't have any problems. But I guess it's just not the style nowadays. People want to see strikeouts. They want to see the heat coming in, and that's just my view. Is I think it's a combination of factors, but they're not looking for young players that can throw throw knuckleballs anymore. They're looking for.
I think a junk baller would be fantastic because he would
why not?
keep people so off kilter now that everybody's expecting 1,000,000 miles an hour coming at him on every pitch.
Right.
But you've got a point with the research regarding elbow injuries, because that was part of the players union's argument against the pitch clock. And you wonder if these guys, Verlander's an elbow, right? Dixie, is Verlander an elbow?
I don't know. I'm not sure.
Okay. I know Giolito's an elbow. DeGrom is because he's made of glass.
Now,
God bless him. God bless him. Scherzer is an oblique, though, I think, isn't it? Or is it a back? It's not an elbow.
well, Scherzer is old. This is the problem.
So
He's
am
sort of
I.
gradually, well, yeah, okay, fair enough. But I think
How
that
old
once
is
you get to a
DeGrom?
certain age, like things start to like Verlander isn't any spring chicken either.
Verlander's a shoulder. And let's see what Scherzer is. Scherzer is it says back.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
he's
what I
got
thought. It was a
back
back.
spasms.
Yeah. And Roger, you able to get on camera? You able to get on? You able to speak?
Yes, I am.
There he is. How you doing, Raj?
All right.
So correct me if I'm wrong. You are a Reds fan.
That's correct.
Look at me remembering things. Holy cow. So let's talk about Sonny Gray for a minute.
Oh, we were so close.
What's going on?
No, Sonny Gray signed with St. Louis.
Oh
So,
no, who am I thinking of that's hurt with Cincinnati?
oh, Lodoto,
Doggone it.
has a leg problem. Green is supposedly ready to go, Hunter Green, but he throws over 100, and he's been out 2 years ago for shoulder for a year. What I was going to bring up about the Reds, last year they got rid of Joey Votto on his long contract, and they spent $109 million in free agents, which in Cincinnati, that's unheard of. And what did they get for the money? They got Montas, who was a starter reliever. They got 2 relief pitchers and a part-time third baseman. What do you get for the money with $109 million? We missed out on Sonny Gray, very close, but where does all this money go? And we don't even talk about a Snell or anybody like that, because that's unheard of for a small market club.
They've probably been trained by the Red Sox.
Ouch. Oof.
Well, the Red Sox came from the Reds in 1871.
Yeah. Now you're just showing off, Raj.
No, it still hurts me.
It wasn't the Red Sox who came from them. It was the Braves who came from them.
Boston Braves.
Well, Harry Wright and George Wright, did they go to the Braves?
Well, they went to the Red Stockings in Boston, but that team was the National League.
That's right. He's right. He's right.
Okay, you got me on that one.
Dixie is our resident expert on 19th century baseball. He is Dixie, you go to the conference every year, right?
The what?
The 19th century conference?
Yes.
Yep. That's coming up, isn't it?
April 18th, 19th, something that weekend.
And that's in Cooperstown again this year,
Yes.
right? Yep. I think registration is still open for that if anybody is interested.
I think it is.
Going.
It's been open for a while. So they used to have about 60, 70 people. Now they're looking to get 100.
That's fantastic. That's fantastic. And there's a couple of dinners involved in that too.
We listen to people talking and we eat, and then we listen to more people talking and we eat, and then we listen to more people talking and we eat again.
So that, in my opinion, is
you guys are gonna fall asleep because if I sorry, I was gonna say you're gonna fall asleep because if I was at a conference like that and there was good food and I was listening to people talk about baseball and then I ate, and then I listened to people talk about baseball again, man, I'd be out. especially if it was good food, because I'd
The
overeat.
the food is always good. And the thing is, even when you have a short break, there's
Yeah.
food in the rooms in the Hall of
Oh,
Fame
man.
library, so you can
Dangerous.
munch before you actually
Oh.
eat a meal.
I'd gain
Oh.
80 pounds.
It's unbelievable.
I was going
Oh.
to say that if this is not the definition of an in-person Saber meeting, I don't know what is. Raj, go.
What I was excited to hear about the Reds this year is they brought somebody in to teach bunting.
Oh,
Good. You were talking before about going back to the basics. Teach them how to bunt. See what they can do with that. Can
I
that
didn't
compete
hear
in
that.
baseball today, though? What's your opinions?
Do they
My
even know what a bunt is?
Dixie just read my mind.
Someone have to explain it to them?
I would love to see the bunt come back, especially when I know they don't have the full shift, but when the shift, the third baseman's like by the shortstop and by the shortstop by second base, you have the whole third base really empty. God, look, I've moved to the Mets. Brett Beatty's on the Mets at third baseman. Terrible batting average right now. Just put a couple bunts down there toward third base. Average goes up, and now they have to cover the defense has to cover the field. It opens up the field. Just smart baseball.
I love
Bill-
bunts personally.
Let's go all the way and let's start getting grounds crews that know how to play with the field, so that
Right.
when they know you're going to be playing small ball for a day or two, they let that grass get up there, they get it a little wet to deaden that ball. Let's go back to all that fun stuff that we did with the
Yeah, why not? I think that's great.
Do
I
you
love
know
that.
Raj,
Probably
who they
won't
hired?
help.
What's
It
that?
won't help because the major leaguers of today don't have the brains to know how to bunt or when to bunt.
I've
Well,
seen a
Brent-
couple of good bunts in the last few years.
Couple of good
Couple in the
bunts.
last
Three-
few
three or
years, you
four,
just
maybe.
told the whole thing.
But I'm always really excited. It's like a grand slam to me. I think it's, oh, wow, this is great. But
That's
yeah, they
because
don't,
it's so rare.
not as
But
often.
Heather, you and I and Victor and Molly will be going to a Sea Dogs game this year. Somebody's going to lay down a bunt, and you're going to be out of your seat like a.
Yeah, I love bunts. I think they're really
Nice.
cool.
Has anybody seen what came out today from Vegas? They finally debuted a ballpark rendering,
Oh.
and I don't know quite how to parse the pictures that are out there, and I'm trying to here we go. Let me see if I can bring this there we go. All right. So let me and there you have it. You should be able to see.
Oh, yeah, sure. Yeah, I buy that.
So this is
That's going to be at the Tropicana site?
yes, this is
There's
at
not enough
the
room there.
Tropicana scheduled for
Ridiculous.
demolition.
Ridiculous.
Now I've actually been I was taking a look at some of the comments on social media and some of the comments on articles
Wow.
on Facebook, and one of the things that has come out about this is that the way this is oriented in the artist rendering, it's oriented like Wacona Stadium in Pittsburgh, and the setting sun is going to be in the batter's eye.
Oh, great.
Right, Dick?
Yeah.
How does that help?
Now, I don't know if this is going to be, they haven't come out yet to see whether or not this is going to be completely domed or what in the world this is. It's what does that remind you of, folks?
It's a Sydney Opera House.
There it is. Thank you, Dixie. There you go.
There's only one building in the world like that.
That's right. That's right. We have actually members in Australia, Saber members in Australia who are like, what? But notice this here where my cursor is.
Yeah, I don't get that. Like,
That's the ballpark scoreboard they're talking about. Apparently,
projected?
It's projected. Apparently,
Oh.
the people that are
AI?
involved in this or were also involved in the Vegas sphere. And I might be talking completely out of my ear right now, but this is what I remember reading, and that is going to be similar to the graphics that you've seen if you've seen any part of the Vegas sphere on video or whatever, where they can change it to make it look like this giant screen or whatever. And I can only imagine being on the third base line in this ballpark, watching a game and getting vertigo when that scoreboard pops up, because that's supposed to be a monster.
This is technology unchained.
Yes, this is technology unchained. I still don't think that Oakland is moving. Heather, you're up.
Yeah, so who's gonna pay for it? Have they even talked about that yet?
See, you were rounding third, heading for home before I hit second. Everybody and their brother, I guess, is suing in Vegas. The teachers union is suing again to block this. And the mayor of the town said, maybe you ought to stay in Oakland. And I'm looking at it. I'm looking at this whole thing saying, maybe they should. There was a proposal there that for some reason they turned their back on. I still don't get the owner's end game here. And somebody shouted out, maybe maybe you've got an idea that I don't have, but I can't understand a doggone thing that this fella is doing, because it seems like he walks into a room and he just upsets everybody.
The owner, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I thought that and Manfred was really pushing this hard too. I thought that they wanted to sort of like steamroll the Las Vegas, fathers or whatever into just like giving them all the money and letting them build this thing. But I guess Las Vegas has already built a couple of big stadiums recently, and they don't really feel like doing any more. So
Well, they
I don't
built
blame
that
them.
football stadium. If you've seen that on TV, that's insanity.
Right, and they went into hock for various,
And they the hockey arena, which will more than likely be used for an expansion NBA team they're talking about. And the AAA ball club, they got money too to renovate that stadium and made it one of the nicest AAA ballparks in the country. But everybody forgets about them.
I can give you the biggest problem with that lawsuit. There's an assumption on the part of the teachers that if they don't spend it on the stadium, they'll spend it on education. That's a dumbass theory if I ever heard one, because
But it's also been thought that they're pulling money
out.
out of education budgets to pay for this. They're reducing education budgets.
Until the educators say you can't do that, and they'll win that part. But the fact of the matter is, if I tell you I'm not going to pay you $1,000 because I want to give it to the Savannah Bananas, which is my preference, incidentally.
I love the Savannah Bananas.
If I don't give it to you, that doesn't mean I'm going to give it to them. It sounds good, but it doesn't work.
Let's go back to Ben.
Always keep myself on mute.
The
Oakland Alameda or I don't know if it's called the Oakland Alameda Coliseum anymore. It doesn't look that bad to me when you look at that.
Right.
I'm being sarcastic. I've never actually been there. I wish I had.
They'd have renovated it to return it to what it was what it was when Charlie O still had the ball club.
They should just reopen the Kingdome in Seattle. It looks better than that. I haven't been to the Kingdome.
And the Kingdome's been down for what, a decade?
3 decades, since like mid 90s, really, right? Because then they opened up Safeco, which is now T-Mobile. But
I remember when they blew up the Kingdome live on ESPN.
Yep, I watched it.
Yeah. Now, Oakland Oakland's not the only ball club that's fighting for a ballpark right now, because we've recently learned that Jerry Reinsdorf has a proposal for a new ballpark for the White Sox. Now, he didn't do it right the first time.
Yes, that's more insanity on the march.
Also, the Royals are talking about some big
Yeah.
production.
Yeah, the
Like
Royals are talking
$2
about a big
$2
production,
billion
which would be a
or something
tragedy.
crazy.
And
They want to move downtown, away from the suburbs.
Yep.
How's
Right.
that Royal Stadium last year? Nice stadium.
Yes.
They don't
Yeah,
need
of course
another
it is.
one.
So it's now, I've spoken to a couple of Royals fans out there when this came out about leaving Kaufman. It's apparently known in Kansas City. If there's any Kansas City fans watching this, email me and let me know whether or not I'm right, wrong, or indifferent. But it's my understanding that there's some structural problems with that ballpark that could impact its long-term viability. There have apparently been problems with concrete structures of the ballpark that have cropped up. I don't know the veracity of that claim. I've seen and heard some stories about it, so I don't know how true that is. But yes, visually, when you watch that on television, you walk in there. Calvin's a beautiful ballpark. It's unfortunate that they renovated it the way they did, because hey, guess what, folks? Get off my lawn. The original iteration of that ballpark was just so picturesque. And frankly, it was the same with Oakland Alameda County Coliseum. The original configuration of that ballpark had that beautiful view out of center field that made it a lovely place to play, even if they never did finish the offices like Nancy Finley talks about in her book. Hi, Nancy. Downtown seems to be where everybody wants to be these days. Chicago is now interested in a new ballpark. These are the White Sox, and somebody correct me if I'm wrong. The mayor apparently has told them, "You want to do something? Fine. You need to team up with the Bears."
Yeah, I think it was the mayor.
I don't think that's going to fly, because multi-purpose stadiums don't seem to be on anybody's list these days. But can you imagine? And then what are you going to do with Soldier Field? Can you imagine? The Chicago Bears leaving Soldier Field.
Like the Cubs leaving Wrigley or Red Sox leaving Fenway.
Right? Well, that almost happened. 1999, that almost happened. They had a plan for a new Fenway with more seats. And does anybody remember where they were thinking about putting it?
I think South Boston.
That was
Along
one
the
of the
water.
spots. Along the water, that was one of the spots. There was one other spot that they were talking about.
Wasn't it down by Patriots?
Yes, Foxborough.
Not exactly near Boston.
Not exactly near Boston, but yeah, they floated the idea of building it next door to the Patriots in Foxborough.
They could have shared the parking lot.
They could have shared the parking lot, but there's no public transportation. There's one way in, one way out. It's not exactly the most user friendly experience.
Well, that's like
football fans put up with it. What's that?
That's like in Kansas City with the Royals and the Chiefs. Is one parking lot. You both use it. One way in, one way out.
Yep. Yeah, but there's more highway there.
Is there? Well, I know.
Isn't that
yeah.
right off the highway?
Oh yeah.
There's a lot of money being thrown around. A lot of money being thrown around for a lot of guys that are getting hurt and ruining their shoulders for what? And then well, one more thing. Let's go one more. And then what's next after we get done with Oakland and Tampa and ballparks and whatnot? His legacy, Manfred's legacy. He wants to add 2 more teams.
That's going to happen.
And that's going to happen. And it's going to be very, very interesting to see how the game evolves, because we all know what happens when expansion takes place. When expansion takes place, the offense goes up.
Yeah.
So, you've got these smaller bandbox ballparks. You expand by 2 teams. Now, let's just say they put one in Salt Lake just because. Not only do you have the increase in offense because it is an expansion year, you have another increase in offense because you're playing 80 games in 80 more games in thin air. I could see somebody hitting a ton of home runs. Barry Bonds, look out.
Yeah. Also with expansion, I think it's the death of the American and National Leagues. I think they're going to do radical realignment.
That goes back as far as 98 with Bud Selig. I have a sheet somewhere that talks about how Selig wanted to realign Major League Baseball when with the first expansion. It never got anywhere.
But now there's DH in both leagues. There's no difference in the leagues. And
Right.
I think it's going to be a radical realignment.
But it's not really radical because there's no difference between the leagues.
That's true. But I'm saying goodbye American National League. You have the Mets, Yankees, Red Sox, Phillies in one division and things like that. I think that's going to...
Mets, Red Sox, Yankees, Baltimore, Toronto, hopefully Montreal.
Yes.
And
Don't forget Montreal, guys.
the Expos return to Major League Baseball. Dick Layden and I are going to be there for opening day.
That'd be awesome.
In our Expos hats. And I would think that the 2 Philadelphia or the 2 Pennsylvania teams would also be included in that division. Jeff, correct me if I'm wrong.
Well, probably.
Yeah.
That means they'll make
Expos
more
are-
money because they'll be saving on transportation.
Yes, they'll be saving on transportation.
So
And I
they'll be
think it'll
building
do-
another stadium after that headache that is the Big O that we heard
Oh my
about for years
gosh.
when the Expos were in the league, right?
Oh my gosh.
Oh boy, with that
I
roof
was-
and all the other goofy stuff.
When I worked in the NHL, I was in there once. We had a layover there when I was working at the old Hartford Whalers, and we got a chance to get in it just to see it. And boy, was that thing, it just reminded, I know that Montreal had fun and they loved their Expos and they loved that ballpark, but it reminded me of a warehouse. And it wasn't easy to get to.
Right.
I mean, it would be serviceable for a couple of years.
No, they would definitely have to have a better ballpark. I brought up my kids going to that ballpark, and it was better for the big truck conventions versus.
Interesting.
I remember Barry Bonds and Bobby Bonilla in batting practice would have these $500 swings to see who could knock as many home runs out into the concrete of left field or right field, whichever way they call it. You had to call your home runs when they were up at bat. That was part of their shtick. It was it was really interesting, especially with only 2,000 people in the stands, because you could get up and you can walk around and find a better seat for the next inning. But it's always a horrible experience.
Well, in the heyday when the Expos were really going, early 80s, they were. It looked like a heck of a fun time to be an Expos fan and to be in that ballpark. I never got to see a game there. I can only imagine how much fun it was when they were winning games with Carter and Dawson and all Raines and all those guys, Steve Rogers, who are legends in Montreal.
Yeah.
I mean,
It
and they,
was a load
they
of
got
fun.
Andre
chipped.
Galarraga?
Yeah, they did. They got
They got
jobbed
chipped
Galarraga's
in
when.
number one.
94. They should
Yeah,
have
they got
gone
jobbed
to
in
the
94.
World Series.
Yeah, he's right. Ben, where'd you go?
I was going to say expos that I remember. Andres Galarraga, Dennis
Yep.
Martinez. I think when I was a kid, I watched that Dennis Martinez no hitter on TSN. And then the other guy is obviously Vlad Guerrero Sr.
Oh yeah. Yep.
Tim Raines was a good outfielder there. They needed
Yeah,
him in
Tim Raines is a
center.
really good outfielder there.
Boy, the
Yeah.
this we should I probably should have titled this discussion not Diamond Discourse, but Get Off My Lawn tonight. I mean,
Baseball coots.
so all right, so we've gotten through a couple of weeks of spring training. We're seeing some of our guys go down with injury. Does anybody have any hot take on their team so far this year?
They don't even have one.
Well, got a good point, but why can't you go out? I'm going to go out on a limb. I'm going out on a limb. Baltimore wins 100 games again. I've got
Did
it.
they tank in the playoffs like last year?
Oh,
No.
I'm not trying to be mean. They tanked, man.
They did. They did.
How many
And
teams?
no,
Okay. How many teams in the last couple seasons have won 100 games? Okay. And who is it that brought it up at the start of the thing? Sorry, I can't see your name. Maybe it's Jeff. Jeff mentioned the Dodgers and he mentioned Clayton Kershaw, Walker Buehler, Dustin May, and Tony Gonsolin, right? The Dodgers are winning games in the regular season. It gets to the postseason. Those guys aren't available. And they're wondering why the Dodgers lost. I'm like, well, that's why they lost. Now Buehler's going to come back. They got Ohtani, but Ohtani can't pitch. Kershaw is what?
He'll be back midseason.
Right. Okay. So do they have Gonsolin in May? No, I don't think so.
Gonsolin's out.
Yep.
Oh man.
They have what's his name? The new pitcher Yamamoto.
Oh yeah. Right. Okay. Sorry.
I
I
think,
think Corbin.
I think Baltimore could easily win 100 games if they could only play the Red Sox every day.
I think Corbin Burns is going to be an impact player for Baltimore. I think he's going to find out just how much fun it is to pitch in that town, and then I think he's going to find out just how much fun it is to have a new owner who's going to make it rain in that town to keep guys. And I could see Burns re-signing with the Orioles for really, really good money, especially if he puts up numbers half, 3/4 of the way through the season, because the ownership change in Baltimore should take place prior to opening day, which means this is the first year that the Orioles are stacked and are flush with spendable cash. So at the deadline, they won't be silent. They could go out and get somebody, pay Burns, whatever it might be. Maybe if Montgomery or Snell are still out there around opening day when this ownership change takes place, who says that this guy, being the Orioles fan that he isn't going to go out and grab one of those guys and say, all right, here you go. Here's a rotation. Go get him. Ben, you're up.
One thing I was following a lot through social media is the whole Matt Chapman didn't sign with the Blue Jays, signed with the Giants.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of accounts that pop up on Twitter. I don't always know how they pop up in my account, the algorithm. Man, people are just so pissed at the Blue Jays, like fire Atkins, fire Shapiro, because they didn't sign Chapman. So I think that's a really interesting development. And a lot of fans on Twitter, social media, not so much media types, lamenting that the Jays are going to be no better than last year or worse because they didn't make any offseason improvements.
Didn't he make a statement about he's upset with the way they're renovating the Rogers Center?
I hadn't heard that part.
I
just know
think,
the
if I
fan
recall
anger.
correctly, he made a comment about how
Okay.
his batting average dropped because of the renovations to the Rogers
Right.
Center. And he never had any intention of re-signing with Toronto.
I have a hot take. I think the National League East, the National League, besides the Dodgers and the Braves, is up for grabs. It's just mediocre. The rest of the teams in the National League.
Gosh, remember the days when the National League was so far superior to the American League?
Mm-hmm.
And now you see where the talent is spread so evenly. I hate to use that word, but close to evenly across all 30 teams. That National League Central, I don't see anybody who's going to run away with that. I think that's going to be a real interesting division to watch. Bill Perch, if you're watching this, your Cubbies are in for a fight this year.
Yeah. There's no one standing out there. Not at all.
No, I mean, if somebody gets hot and they grab on to first place, it's how long can they hold on to it?
Mid-80s gets you in, last 2
Mid
years in the
80s
National
gets you
League.
in, yeah.
Last 2 years, the Phillies and the Diamondbacks, I mean, they both lost the World Series, but they got there with mid-80 wins.
Yep. American League Central, same way. I don't see anybody pulling away in that division. And I think the Royals might surprise a few people this year.
It's going to come down to who's hurt and for how long.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You think it really matters that much how many wins you have to a point? Because the playoffs eliminate some really good teams.
Exactly right. Not anymore. It doesn't matter. It used to matter. Not anymore.
Not even for seeding?
No, the Braves, they were knocked out first round because they waited 5 days before playing, and they say that has an effect.
No.
So maybe not winning the division is an advantage.
Who are the National League champions?
It's the Diamondbacks.
There you go.
Over the Phillies? Because I follow the Phillies. The Phillies were good.
Phillies the year
good the
before.
last-
Year before was
Yeah.
the Phillies.
The
They made the-
Diamondbacks
Phillies made the-
beat the Reds by 2 games to get to the playoffs.
Yeah.
And ended up going to the World Series.
Right.
I see the Reds hanging in there in the National League Central.
They're going to be a fun team to watch.
Yeah.
They've got a lot of young rookies or first, second year players, and it's going to be fun. They may do well, they may not, but it's a team to watch.
I agree.
By May 1st, we'll know a lot more.
True.
Don't pay any attention to anything until May 1st.
I'm just interested to
Why
see how
is
many
that?
people are going to be showing up at Fenway Park early on this season, because that fan base is unhappy.
May 1st for paying attention. Try July 1st sometimes, right?
Hey, you
saying
both have a
May
point.
1st.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, seriously, like, I love baseball. I'll watch it all season, but because I love the game. But if I be truthful, sometimes it's like, if I was picking up stuff in August, I'd be like, I don't know.
Bruce, when you come down to Fenway, you can park in my driveway if you want to save some money.
You
Well,
know
that's
what?
nice.
I'm going to have to take you up on that, Dixie.
It's a 1.25 mile walk, but it will save you money.
I'm all over it, man. If you're volunteering that, I'll take you up on that someday. Thank you very much. The only thing I'm gonna have to figure out is, and Molly and I have had this conversation several times offline and whatnot. Molly is one with celiac disease, and Bill Nolan, if you're watching, you and I have talked about this too. Making sure that poor girl has something that she can eat at that ballpark, that can be difficult.
Yeah.
But
Can
it's
you
coming
eat hot dogs without the bun?
if they'll make it.
They can't
Just throw the
touch
bun away.
I can't have it like that, Ben. We'll end up in the
No,
hospital.
well, no, I wasn't sure because I eat gluten-free stuff, but I'm
Yeah.
not celiac, right? Like, but I like to eat more and more gluten-free stuff. Like,
Yeah.
sometimes what I'm trying to understand, Molly, I don't want to sidetrack the conversation, is when
Do it.
when you eat the food, the contents of the food, what irritates you? Because it makes complete sense to me, because my friend is celiac, right? Like, you have to be strict, and it's like there could be all kinds of stuff made with gluten or with certain products that you wouldn't think have gluten in, and then you eat them and then you feel sick.
So, long story short, anything that has gluten in it, I don't touch. We have
Right. Okay.
separate pots and pans, like
wow.
specifically speaking, not all of them, but like I have a pot to make my pasta in. He has his pots.
Right.
We have
Okay.
two
Okay.
separate griddles. I have a griddle for my pancakes. He has a griddle for his pancakes.
Oh wow. Okay.
I got contaminated once, and we had an overnight stay in Hartford Hospital with two
Oh,
IV
boy.
lines going into me.
Well, because you mixed the two?
Nope, because I accidentally got cross-contaminated, and
Oh.
we didn't realize it.
Yeah, like if
That's-
she
that's
takes the
bad.
hot dog out of the bun,
Yeah, it's not going to work.
it's not going to help because there's still gluten particles on the hot dog.
Yeah, right. I didn't realize it was that serious.
Yeah, with her, it's very sensitive and whatnot. So, but there's got to be there's got to be a salad that she can eat or something in that ballpark. It's something I'm going to have to look into over time. I don't know, but
The other thing you can do, because it's you want to see the Orioles play the Red Sox, do it in Baltimore. You'll save a fortune.
yeah,
Oh.
even driving down, yeah,
Yeah, and in Baltimore, I could eat without a problem too.
Yeah.
Mets at the Mets Stadium, I ate without a problem. Polar Park, Yard Goats, several of them. It wasn't an issue, but Red Sox, it's like impossible.
All right. Well, it's nice to get together and talk a little baseball and just have a freewheeling discussion. I like these times when we can get together and not have an agenda or worry about anything but baseball and getting together as, our Sabre family. But next week, we're going to welcome Gary Sarnoff in. Gary is from Alexandria, Virginia, and has been a Sabre member since 1994. He's a member of the Bob Davis chapter and has contributed to Sabre's bio and games projects and the annual National Pastime publication. He's going to be presenting his new book, Team of Destiny, Walter Johnson, Clark Griffith, Bucky Harris, and the 1924 Washington Senators. This should be a really fun presentation of a really good book, brand new, just come out. Don't miss this presentation. Now, that's Tuesday, March 12th at 7 p.m. And I love saying this, Eastern Daylight Time. The clocks go forward. I love it.
The dark
We got a little more daylight at the end of the day. All right. Let's get everybody out of here. I want to thank everybody for coming to see me. It's been a lot of fun. We're going to see you next week, Tuesday, March 12th. Have a good night, everybody.
Thank
Good night,
you.
guys. Take care.
Thanks very
The only
much.
thing-
everyone.
The only thing missing was Gus.
Right? He didn't want to show up tonight. Next week, we'll get him in.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
See you later, everyone.